over the fantasy baseball season, and he has a few hitters on the rise this week. The first guy's Kyle Schwarber of the Washington Nationals. So Schwarber, he's been the best player in fantasy baseball the last few weeks, ranked number one in this time on the season for Schwarber though. 21 home runs, 49 RBIs, a 245 batting average, and a 330 on base with 34 runs scored. So Schwarber, we know he's a high strikeout guy. Last season he only hit 188, but we know he's a big power guy as well, and already this season with 21 home runs and a respectable 245 batting average for him. And this month here in June, he's just been on fire. And the last couple weeks for Schwarber, 12 home runs, 23 RBIs, 14 runs scored, a 333 batting average, and a 390 on base percentage. So ever since the Nationals batted him first, they've been red hot, and Schwarber's caught fire right now in the last couple weeks. And here's the last few games for Schwarber. June 16th versus Pittsburgh, 1-for-4. June 18th versus the Mets, 1-for-3. June 19th in a doubleheader versus the Mets, 2-for-8 with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs. June 20th versus the Mets, 3-for-4 with 3 homers and 4 RBIs and 3 runs scored. June 22nd at Philly, 1-for-5. June 23rd at Philly, 1-for-4 with a homer, 3 RBIs and 2 runs scored. And June 24th at Miami, 2-for-4 with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs. So Schwarber, he's on a power trip right now, hitting a home run it seems like every game, or if he's not hitting it one game, the next game he has a multiple home run week. And this week already he's hit 5 home runs in the last couple days here with Schwarber. So Schwarber right now, he's on fire, and he's a player, if you were lucky enough to pick him up, you're reaping the benefits right now, and he's the first hitter on the rise this week. The second hit is Michael Brantley of the Houston Astros. So Michael Brantley, I mentioned him as a sell-high candidate this week. Juices here. This guy's on total fire right now. 4 home runs, 30 RBIs for the season, 37 runs scored, a 355 batting average, and a 401 on base in the last couple weeks here for Brantley. A homer, 14 RBIs, 10 runs scored, a 500 batting average, and a 559 on base. So right now he's playing out of this world is Michael Brantley, but I just can't see him continuing at this torrid pace with a high batting average. But obviously he's on the rise this week in the last few games for Brantley. June 18th versus Chicago White Sox, 0-for-4. June 19th versus the White Sox, 2-for-4 with 2 RBIs and a run. June 20th versus the White Sox, 2-for-4 with an RBI and a run. June 21st at Baltimore, 3-for-3 with 2 RBIs and 3 runs scored. June 22nd at Baltimore, 2-for-4. June 23rd at Baltimore, 2-for-4. And June 24th at Detroit, 2-for-6 with a run scored. So right now, Brantley, he's got 8 games in a row with multiple hit games, and this guy's on fire. There's no stopping him right now, and he's definitely a hitter on the rise this week. The next hitter is Matt Olson of the Oakland Athletics. So Olson, just like Kyle Schwarber, he's been on a home run tear, just as not as much home runs as Schwarber, but on the season it's just about the same here. 20 home runs, 53 RBIs, 49 runs scored, a 302 batting average, and a 383 on base percentage. So right here, Matt Olson, he's ranked 7th on the season in fantasy baseball. But the last month or two here, he's really picked things up in the last couple weeks for him. 5 home runs, 12 RBIs, 11 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 404 batting average, and a 458 on base percentage. So right now, he's unstoppable. He's red hot, white hot, and he's a guy on a tear right now, is Olson. And he was on the rise list last week, and he's on it once again here, because there's no stopping him right now. The last few games, June 19th at the Yankees, 3-for-5 with 2 RBIs and a stolen base. June 20th at the Yankees, 2-for-4 with a homer, an RBI, and a run. June 21st at Texas, 1-for-4 with a run. June 22nd at Texas, 1-for-4 with 2 runs scored. June 23rd at Texas, 0-for-4. And June 24th at Texas, 2-for-3 in that ball game. So right here, it seems like he's getting a multiple hit game almost every night here, results in. The power's obviously legit, but what a bounce back season from last season to this season for him. He batted 195 last season, and this season 302. So right now he's cutting down on the strikeouts, putting more contact and the ball in play, and it's paying big dividends here for Olson. The next hitter on the rise is Manny Machado of the San Diego Padres. So Machado, he was off to a slow start for about the first 2 months of the season, but now he's starting to pick things up on the season. 12 home runs, 48 RBIs, 38 runs scored, 8 stolen bases, a .258 batting average, and a .338 on base percentage. But the last couple weeks here for Machado, he's starting to live up to that first round to second round ranking where he got drafted in the offseason. 4 home runs, 11 RBIs, 10 runs scored, a .354 batting average, and a .407 on base. So Manny Machado, sometimes it takes him a few months to get into the rhythm of things. And once again this season, it's taken him a couple months to get things going. And now he's really getting it going. The power's starting to get going, and the batting average is rising up as well. So the last few games for him: June 18th versus Cincinnati, 2 for 4 with a run and an RBI. June 19th versus Cincinnati, 1 for 3 with 3 RBIs and a stolen base. June 20th versus Cincy, 1 for 3 with a run. June 21st versus the Dodgers, 3 for 4 with a homer, 3 RBIs and a stolen base. June 22nd versus the Dodgers, 0 for 4. And June 23rd versus the Dodgers, 2 for 4 with a homer, an RBI, and 2 runs scored. So for the most part, Machado's getting a hit or two a game over the last week or two here. And he's playing real well, and this is what the Padres and fantasy owners want to see. And right now, Machado's definitely on the rise this week, and the 5th and final hitter on the rise is Gary Sanchez of the New York Yankees. Talk about a guy that was really down and below the Mendoza line the first few months of the season as well, but now he's starting to get things going as Sanchez on the season. 13 home runs, 29 RBIs, 27 runs scored, a .240 batting average, which is great for his standards, and a .344 on base percentage. In the last couple weeks here for Sanchez, 6 home runs, 12 RBIs, 9 runs scored, a whopping .333 batting average, and a .400 on base percentage. So Sanchez, he's on a home run tear. He's hitting the ball, spraying it all over the field, and he's even cutting down on his strikeouts a little this season from last season in 157 at-bats, 64 strikeouts. This season on 183 at-bats, 57 strikeouts. So he's improving on that, and he's had some clutch hits over the last few weeks as well here for the Yankees. So the last couple games for Sanchez: June 17th at Toronto, 1 for 4 with 2 runs scored. June 18th versus Oakland, pinched hit, 0 for 1. June 19th versus Oakland, 1 for 3 with a homer. June 20th versus Oakland, 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. June 22nd versus Kansas City, 0 for 1. June 23rd versus Kansas City, 1 for 4 with a big home run in that game. And June 24th versus Kansas City, 2 for 5 with a homer, 3 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. So right now, Sanchez, it's good to see him getting it going. 70% of fantasy leagues he was only owned in before this week, but now owners have added him in 13% of leagues. And right now, he's one of the better catchers of fantasy baseball. And he's definitely a hitter on the rise here in Week 12. So that's a few hitters on the rise in Week 12 of the fantasy baseball season.